I just found a small shard of metal on my desk. No idea where that came from. Oh well. Anyway, hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another rules breakdown. And this time we're going to be looking at this, Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, which came out from Wizards of the Coast in 2008. Now, this is thought of as a pretty poor version of Dungeons & Dragons, but it's a pretty interesting role-playing game, which is based on Dungeons & Dragons, so I think it's definitely worth a look through. And as usual, I will need a sample character. Well, I went online and I downloaded some pre-created characters for various adventures which Wizards of the Coast have brought out, and I chose this one, Eldeth, a female dwarf fighter, Slayer, level 1, good aligned. Why did I choose her? Because she's a fighter and that should be fairly easy to work out, but for no other reason than that. Anyway, let's get on and look through Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. And so skills. Well, 4th edition uses the same method that 3rd edition, 5th edition uses, where you're rolling a d20 and adding bonuses. But it has a slight quirk of its own. So, we are skill check bonuses. We have 1/2 your level. So, no matter what level you are, as you go up, you get better at everything. Your ability score modifier, and a +5 bonus if you're trained in the skill. Plus, there's armor check penalties, racial feat bonuses, item bonuses if you've got magical items, power bonuses, any untyped bonus that may apply. And, of course, the Games Master can apply situational modifiers. So, if you are doing something in terrible conditions, he can modify your skill down. And you tend to be going against a difficulty class of 15. So, looking at Eldeth, well, she's 1st level, so rounded down half her skill. Half her level is 0. But we've got her skills here. So she's got Athletics +9, Dungeoneering +3, Endurance +9, Intimidate +4. So we'll say Athletics. She is trying to climb a wall. So we're throwing a d20. We're adding 9. We've got 19, so we've got 28, which beats the standard target number of 15 with great ease. So she succeeds. And so initiative. Well, initiative is dealt with on page 267. And, as usual, you're rolling a d20, you're adding your dexterity modifier. Similar as 3rd edition, same as 5th edition. But you also add 1/2 your level. Very much a thing in 4th edition. Which isn't much to start off with. But by the time you reach 20th level, adding a 10 to your initiative is quite a massive change. But anyway, Eldeth isn't 20th level, she's only 1st, she's got initiative of +3 from her dexterity. So we're rolling a d20, we're adding +3. So he rolls a 16, she gets 19, which means she goes after anybody who gets 20 or higher before anybody who gets 18 or lower. And so combat. Well, this is where we start to deviate from other versions of Dungeons & Dragons. While you can do ordinary attacks, they are considered at-will attacks, which you can do any time you want, as many times as you want. You also have encounter abilities, which you can do once per encounter, and daily abilities, which you can only do once per long rest, basically, once per day. So, Eldeth here has her basic melee attack. So she targets one creature, +7 versus their armor class, and then she does 1d12 +7 damage. 1d12 extra damage on a critical hit. So she is targeting herself, her armor class is 17. So we throw. She gets a 3, 7, so +7, 10, so she misses. But there are other abilities. We've got Poised Assault and Berserker's Charge here, and she's got Power Strike, which is her encounter ability. If we go back to the rulebook, to the section on fighters, page 77, we can see there's at-will exploits. There's a list you can choose from. And as you go up levels, you can get more. You've got encounter abilities, you've got daily exploits, various abilities you get as you go up levels. And you get to choose them and customize your character. These range of abilities you can activate during combat. And some of them, obviously, you can only activate per day. Now, wizard spells and cleric spells come from this list as well. They're all special abilities. But we'll just concentrate on the fighter ones. So they will tend to, you'll target a character. Sorry if I go back. You can see damage, for example, in the cleave is 1W. So that is one weapon. So if your weapon's doing a D8 damage, you're rolling 1D8 damage. You're just doing once that. But once you get to 21st level, your cleave goes up to 2W. So you're rolling 2D8 damage. It doubles the dice straight off. And with cleave, you're making that ordinary attack, you're doing damage to the target, but any enemy adjacent to you takes damage equal to your strength modifier. So if Eldeth had that, she'd do 4 points to an adjacent target as well. So that's how it works. You choose these abilities, but you have your basic melee attack as one of them. So you can just attack as per all the other versions of Dungeons & Dragons. Roll a d20, add your bonuses, beat the armor class, and roll the damage dice. So, as other versions of Dungeons & Dragons, weapons do a certain amount of damage dice, and that's the damage you do for making the attack. Spells, of course, have their own things, but if we look at the Player's Handbook, at page 218, we can see simple melee weapons. So if you're using a club, you're doing 1d6. If you're using a longsword, it's 1d8. These all sound very familiar from every edition, from Advanced Dungeons & Dragons to the latest ones. They're very, very similar. But Eldeth herself is using a Great Axe, which is doing 1d12 plus 7 damage. So if she'd hit in her attack, we'll be rolling 1d12, throw that, we get 3 plus 7, she's done 10 damage. So health, well, it's Dungeons & Dragons, so it's hit points. So she took 10 points of damage, and she has 29 hit points. So she's still on her feet and fine. However, this is 4th edition, so there's a couple of quirks to it. First of all, we have the bloodied value. You are bloodied when your current hit points drop to your bloodied value or lower. Your bloodied value is 1/2 your maximum hit points, rounded down. Certain powers and effects work only against bloodied enemy or work better. So there's a disadvantage beyond being close to death of being below 50% hit points. So you kind of want to stay away from that. And one of the ways you can do that is with healing surges. So Eldeth has 7 healing surges. Each healing surge heals up 1/4 of her hit points rounded down. So 1/4 of 29 rounded down is 7. So she can heal up 7 hit points and stay away from being bloodied if she wants. However, when she's reduced to 0, there's a bit more calculation involved than 5th edition, because you can go into negative. We go to death and dying. So once you're at 0 or fewer, you fall unconscious and are dying. However, if somebody exceeds that by your bloodied value, so if not only you get reduced to 0, but you get reduced to a negative 1/2 your hit points, you die outright. You start making death saving throws if you're between the 0 and your bloodied value. And if you roll lower than 10, you slip 1 step closer to death. You get this result 3 times before you take a rest, you die. 1920, no change. 20 or higher, you can spend a healing surge even though you're unconscious. When you do so, you're considered to have 0 hit points, and then your healing surge restores hit points as usual. You're no longer dying, you're conscious but still prone. If you roll 20 or higher, have no healing surges expressed, your condition doesn't change. So if you've still got healing surge left, you can leap back to your feet and rejoin combat. But beyond that, you're waiting for somebody to bandage you, and you're at negative hit points. You can slowly bleed away, or if you fail 3 rolls in a row, you will die. The advancement. Well, it's a level-based system, so you're getting experience and you're leveling up. On page 29, we've got total XP to reach each level and what you get. So at 2nd level, you need 1,000 experience, you gain 1 utility power, gain 1 feat. You now know 2 feats, and your total powers are 2 at will, 1 encounter, 1 daily, 1 utility. But going by your class, an Eldeth's a fighter, so if we go on to page 75, we can see that at 1st level she got 15 plus her constitution score, and at every level above that she gets 6. It's a static amount that she increases. You don't roll dice for levels anymore, you get a static amount for every single level, which is very, very different to previous versions, even if many of us did just average out the dice to keep characters from being wildly different. So they built that into the rules. And that's all it is. You're gaining feats, you're gaining abilities, you're adding half your level. So as soon as you move up to second level, you've got this +1 on various abilities. And that's how it's handled. You increase your experience, you go up your levels, and you get these bonuses. So, that's Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. Now, I quite like what they've done here, but I don't think it's the solution they were looking for. Now, the problem playing Dungeons & Dragons is that fighters tend to roll and hit and do damage, and then sit around waiting while wizards and other characters go through spell lists and take time doing everything. They have all the fancy abilities, which slow down combat. And what they've done is they've added the complexity to all the classes. So fighters and other warrior types can do some really interesting effects. But they have to choose them, which slows them down to the same speed as wizards. Now, if everybody's doing their thing while other people are acting, calculating stuff out, that makes it not such a problem. Because you've got all that time between while everybody else is acting to get ready. But if it's coming to your turn and then you're doing everything, it can slow down combat, which is already fairly slow in Dungeons & Dragons. So while they were solving a problem, I don't think they solved it in the right way, but they did introduce a really interesting thing. Now, many of these abilities last a number of rounds, so you've got so many bookkeeping things to keep going, keeping track of what powers are up, what everybody's doing, what powers are affecting you, that I think this is a version which will be far, far better playing it on a virtual tabletop, where all of that's done automatically. I think they created a version of Dungeons & Dragons which was supposed to be more like a computer game, and, ironically enough, is handled far better by a computer game version of it. But there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. Anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.